Hi everyone, thank you so much for being here. This video I'm going to be making a easy vegan chocolate chip cookie recipe. I have all the ingredients here. Just gonna go ahead and get started. Again, thank you all for being here. I'm Green Heart Goddess 9, happy to bring you this recipe. So to start, you're gonna need a mixing bowl and a spatula, 1 cup of flour. I have almond flour here, but you can use white flour or oat flour. And that's actually what's in the original recipe, but I'm using almond flour just because I like the taste of almonds, the benefits from it. And typically when I make this recipe, I use a dark chocolate with almonds in it as well. So that kind of enhances the almond flavor as well. I just really love almonds. So 1 cup of flour. Got 2 tablespoons of milk and 2 tablespoons of oil that I have put together. You don't have to do this. This is just for convenience. And we have a 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda and a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. This is pink Himalayan salt. And then we have a 1/4 cup of brown sugar. You can see that. And a 1/4 cup of regular sugar. I have cane sugar in here, so you will not see any white in there. And then we're going to top off all of this once we combine it with 1/3 cup of chocolate chips. And when I mentioned what I used earlier, the dark chocolate with the almond, I like to buy a candy bar, like the dark chocolate bar that you would eat like a candy bar. Take some pieces and chop them up with a knife, like real coarse like, and use those as your chips. So then that way you've got like little tiny pieces of chocolate that kind of swim around in the cookie dough, and then you got bigger pieces. And also, depending on what kind of chocolate you use, the chocolate that I really liked had the almonds in it. It was just really good. So, oh, and then also a 1/4 teaspoon of vanilla extract. So I'll just go ahead. We're gonna start with the dry ingredients. So I have my cup of flour, my 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 1/4 cup of brown sugar, and a 1/4 cup of sugar. And you're just going to take your spatula, get that, and mix all of this up. So it's real simple and super easy. Just takes a little bit of patience, but it's so worth it. Patience is always worth it, right? Okay, so now that we have that mixed up there, you're going to take your liquids, which would be, I've got a little bit of baking soda that didn't quite make it. I'm gonna make sure we get all that. So you're gonna take your liquid, your 2 tablespoons of oil, and you can use your oil of preference. There's no specific oil, and then 2 tablespoons of milk. I have oat milk in here. I've used almond milk before. You can use regular milk, any kind of milk, whatever is to your liking. This recipe is so versatile. It's just off the charts. I really love this recipe. So we're gonna take this, our liquids, pour them in the bowl. And then let me grab a 1/4 teaspoon. I had used that earlier for the salt and had planned on using that for the vanilla as well. So 1/4 teaspoon of vanilla. If you're feeling lovey-dovey, I would add just a little bit more. We love flavor. Okay, so then you're going to mix these up. Now, you'll find the consistency might be a little dry. Feel free to add a couple, I wouldn't even say that, a little bit of milk at a time to kind of get it to a consistency that's not necessarily mushy, but not all the way dry. That's not dry. And this is actually turning out pretty good. And so while I've had that kind of mixed midway here, I'm gonna go ahead and grab my chocolate chips. We have a 1/3 cup of chocolate chips. Put those there. Go ahead and drop those in. And because we're feeling so lovey, we're gonna throw a little bit more. And then you're just gonna mix this all up. Now, some other things that you wanna have prepared for your baking is a baking sheet and a cookie scoop or a tablespoon to scoop your cookie dough. And then a wire rack to cool your cookies, which is what I have here. I don't know if you can see it that well, and I'm flinging cookie dough in my face. Okay, so once you have this pretty well mixed, you want to make sure you don't see any, like there may be some pieces of dried dough, and you'll be able to tell because the wet will be a different color than the dry. But you want to make sure you get it all saturated with the liquids that you put in there. And then you've got a nice little ball of cookie dough here. So what I'm going to do is cover this with plastic wrap. And then you're going to take this and refrigerate it for up to 2 hours. So if you are knowing that you want to have some chocolate chip cookies and you want to use this recipe, plan ahead of time and give yourself some time so that you can have some time for this to set in the refrigerator. This is just a way for everything to incorporate and kind of mesh and come to a good consistency. So by the time that you take it out of the refrigerator, it'll be in a nice firm form for you to be able to scoop and put onto your baking sheet. It also helps with the way that the cookie bakes and the way that it spreads. And so you want to make sure that you give this enough time in the refrigerator. And then once you take this out of the refrigerator, you're going to have a baking sheet. You want to grease this. So if you have a greasing spray, or you can take some oil, put it on here, spread it around, but make sure it's greased. You're going to scoop your cookie dough onto your baking sheet. Have the scoops about 2 inches apart. Preheat your oven to 325 while you're doing all this. And then you're going to place your cookies in the oven for about 11 minutes. I would check right before 11 minutes, possibly around 9 or 10, just to see how they're doing. As they're cooking, they're not gonna look like they're all the way set, but you're gonna wanna take them out anyway. Don't cook them too long. So I would say no more than 13 minutes. Even after 11 minutes, if you see, you just feel like you want them to cook a little bit longer, by all means, go ahead. 13 minutes, and then you're gonna take them out, let them cool for 10 minutes on the wire rack, and then you can go ahead and scoop them into a container or begin to enjoy. You can also take this cookie dough, if you're preparing it and you don't want to eat it right away, place it in the freezer. I would recommend putting it in the plastic wrap on its own and then double wrapping it, possibly triple wrapping it, and then keeping it in the freezer, I would say no longer than 6 months. So this was my vegan chocolate chip recipe that I like to use. I will leave the link to this recipe in the description box. Thank you so much. I hope that if you try this, that you enjoy it and you find yourself really liking it, and stay blessed. Peace.